Welcome back, warriors.
Yay.
We quit.
Yes.
Just kidding. Just kidding. We're going to be talking about quitting today.
Did we scare you for a second? Was anyone like, oh God?
I hope so. Kind of. I kind of hope a couple of people were like pearl clutching and gasping, like, what? This is their last episode?
Is this it? They made it 100 and they're done?
That's it. We're done. Yeah, we thought that, or I thought.
Yes.
Abby and I spit back and forth whenever a topic idea strikes. Sometimes we'll text each other in the middle of the day, the middle of the morning, the middle of the night, just so we don't forget some of the interesting ideas that we have and that we think we might be wanting to explore together on the pod. And so really recently I texted Abby and literally just wrote anxiety and quitting.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't even have to explain to you like why I was sharing the words anxiety and quitting. I did right afterwards, but I'm sure I could have just left it at those 3 words and you would have been like, topic idea. Boom.
Yeah. I got a list in my notes app on my phone. So I just add it right there.
Yeah. And so I'm honestly not sure why it even jumped onto my brain, but I do have a lot of anxiety around leaving things.
Yeah.
And work things particularly. And so I feel like if I wanted to make an origin story out of it, I was raised in an environment where work was extremely valued.
Yes.
Right? Hard work and showing up, right? Regardless of feeling or illness or whatever. It was ingrained in me from a really young age that you need to work hard. You need to be there for people, right? Don't disappoint people. And again, it wasn't explicitly told to me. It was never like used in that language.
Yeah.
But that is how it was modeled, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, I just adopted it for myself. And because of that, I wound up putting a lot of pressure on myself to stay at a job that I was at, no matter the circumstances, no matter how over it I was, no matter how, I felt like it had run its course.
Yeah.
I had aged out of wanting to do that kind of work. I had leveled up in my education, right? And then eventually it was about leaving a field and moving into another field. And so I feel like this is probably something that many of our warriors can relate to. Just the worry about not just what will I do once this job is gone if I choose to leave, like to, put food on the table, pay for stuff, take care of things, necessities.
Right. Survive.
Yeah. Everyday necessities, of course, but like saving and if you have the privilege to save at any age, right? Like, all of that. But also the anxiety of like typing up a letter and telling a boss, an employer, whatever, that you no longer seek to be working for them or with them. And finding the words and, and trying to leave in a good place too, because you want to hopefully get a reference or a recommendation from said person or people. And if you don't have those things, that's going to obviously impact your future. Are you going to be able to get another job? Will it be as good? Will that person call my reference and that person has terrible things to say because of the way I left? Like,
right.
And
do I have to write a cover letter for this new job?
Ugh, I hate cover letters.
Yeah.
Such a waste of writing.
Yeah. And you know what? I know so many people that are in charge of hiring. They all admit they never read the cover letter. It's like, come on, you should not require something.
Demand it. They all demand it.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. How many? Who told you that?
Like 5 different friends.
What?
Yeah.
That's very frustrating to learn.
Yeah. Different genders, different ages. Like I can say
so dumb.
At least 5 people in all of the jobs in all of the world do not read their cover letters for when someone is applying to their job,
for their position. Yeah. That's so silly. That's so silly. Don't require something that isn't really required.
Yeah.
That's so much stress on people. People have enough to deal with. Come on now.
Right.
Yeah.
You should just have one cover letter for all jobs.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. People need to adopt that theory, that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think definitely people pleasing plays into this situation.
Yeah.
Not wanting to be a disappointment.
Yeah.
Whether it be to myself, to my family somehow, which again, like, it wasn't like, I was never given the message, like, we're going to be disappointed in you if you quit a job or if you need to move on or whatever. Not the opposite, actually.
Yeah. But what about leaving the team, leaving the kids? Like, it disappointed all of that, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, I never did this, but I thought about it more than once, like leaving in the middle of the year. Like, if you do have a job that's seasonal, like teaching is a seasonal job. It's September through June. Right. And so like, if I had needed to or wanted to leave in the middle of the year, I felt like, no, that can't happen.
Right.
Not only because, again, it'd be much harder for me to find another job in the middle of a year, but because there'd be too much guilt. Right. There would be way too much guilt. And I don't want to upset people, right? Leave people behind, literally small children that are innocent behind to deal with, an onboarding of a new teacher. And who knows if they're going to be as fun or kind or whatever, whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, before I like share my story, what comes up for you when you think about quitting?
I mean, the first thing that comes up is like, I have always prided myself in being a loyal employee.
Same.
Right. Yes. When I work somewhere for a while, even like in some things, like where like, a friend of mine owned a restaurant. Right. And I was living in New York City, but when I was upstate, and they needed help, they could reach out to me. So even if I wasn't even working for them anymore, there was still that like bond that I would come back if they need, so there was like that loyalty piece there. And up until recently, like I always was in jobs like for at a minimum of like 7 years, right? Like totally. Even babysitting, I'm like with a family for at least 5 years, like, and so, for me, that's the first thing that comes up is the loyalty piece. And so I feel that by leaving a job, I'm being disloyal. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the fear of the changing of the relationship, with me and whoever I'm working with or working for or whatever. Then there's always like with quitting, also like health insurance is a real thing that people need. And so I always was stressed out about, well, if I leave this job, I'm also leaving my health insurance and having to deal with that. And especially over the years, like before we had the Affordable Care Act, like it got really messy and confusing and,
Yeah.
So there's like those survival things like that on top of paying rent and utilities and doing all of that. So I feel like I very much relate to a lot of what you were saying. And I just, for me, I get attached to people, I get attached to jobs. Yes. And by quitting, I'm changing part of my identity. I'm changing part of who I am. And that's very unnerving and anxiety producing too. Because if I'm not this person that works with children that are on the autism spectrum, who am I? If I'm not this person that's teaching kids yoga, who am I? If I'm not, and so that is something that comes up too, is like the fear of changing my identity for this next step in my life.
Interesting. Yeah, it winds up feeling even more deeper than you even think. It's like, I'm not just leaving behind this particular company. Right. I might be leaving behind, potentially parts of my future, part of who you are as a person. And how often so many of us can feel wrapped up in our work as being part of our identity.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I've always been a teacher of some kind. I've always worked with children in some capacity. So yeah, the idea of letting go of that would feel so uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah.
And be such a wicked change. I mean, when I say wicked, I mean like crazy, not like wicked and evil. Just want to clarify. That's super interesting. Yeah, I didn't really, but yes, the loyalty, I very much relate to that, right? It's like, I'm the kind of person that is dependable. I'm the kind of person that you can count on. I'm not, what's my 5-year plan? I'm working here, baby. Right?
Yes.
And the only time I was comfortable with leaving a job was for a big life change. So like, for example, I was working at a child care center when I was in my year off between going to get my associate's degree and then going away to school to finish and get my bachelor's in education. And so I worked at this big child care center for a year. And so when it got to be August, right, I had already been accepted to my school. I was going to be going away. And like I told them again, like you were talking about health insurance, I told them at the very last second, I gave them exactly 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could hold on to all that stuff for as long as humanly possible. So I had that safety going or whatever. And then, but I felt good about leaving because I was
Yeah.
moving on. I was literally going to be
Right.
moving upstate. Right. And so, like, it allowed this like permission structure of like, it's okay to leave because you're going to better yourself. You're going to become
Mm-hmm.
educated so you can, keep teaching and become stronger in your field and all that stuff. And so like, it felt more justifiable quitting that job.
Right.
Um, and actually the story I'm going to share is about, when I left, I was a camp director for a university that had a really large summer camp,
Mm-hmm.
very expensive summer camp. God, I wonder what it costs now. This was so many years ago, and it was one of the
Oh,
most expensive on Long Island, which is already a very expensive place to live and work and play and do all the
yes.
things. So I can only imagine what it costs now. But anyway, um, so I started out as a counselor when I was like 20, I think 20. And I was a counselor for 2 summers. And then I was able to become assistant director for the Cub Camp, which was like the preschool age kids. Perfect for me. And then the following year, I became director. And so I had this job for several summers in a row because, again, not a quitter. It was a hard job, but I had a wonderful assistant director. We were very good friends. And all of the counselors that we had would come back year after year. Yes, we would have new people too, but like we had so many wonderful, familiar faces and I loved
Mm-hmm.
them. And I loved the
Yep.
kids. And it was like, it's 6 weeks. It's good money, like you bang it out. Anyway, so in summer of 2010, I told them, or no, I think I waited till the winter actually. I didn't even tell them that summer, but Adam and I had gotten engaged. I knew I was going to be not returning the following summer because we were going to be going to DR for our wedding and then having a big reception a couple of weeks later. And I was just like, you know what? Like camp is just not going to work out. Like I've got too many things going on. And so I left. I left that summer and waited until like February and, emailed my bosses and just said like, hey, just, I'm not going to be returning. Here's the reason, right? Again, felt fine about it because it was for my marriage, right? It's for my
Yeah.
wedding.
Right.
And so I didn't return, obviously, had a great wedding. Everything was great. And so the following fall, I got a phone call from them and they were like, hey, we wanted to see if you'd be interested in coming to, be the director of the gifted camp. And I was like, no, right? My brain immediately was like, no, but then I was like, but you don't have a summer job. You need money. You need to do things. And yeah,
Yeah.
like, what are you going to do with your summer otherwise? And where else are you going to go? And so I wound up saying yes because people pleaser and because
Yep.
loyal and whatever, even though it was not my old job. And I had no
Right.
idea how to lead the gifted camp, totally different body of this camp that was
Yeah.
huge and encompassed a lot of different camps within the camp. And so I said yes and had immediate regret. And I literally like sweated every moment of every day. And whenever it would come up, I'd be fine and working and finishing out my school year. And then all of a sudden I would remember you have to go.
Yep.
And I would just freak out in my mind.
Yeah.
And so, ultimately I wound up leaving. I wound up, calling them and being like, I literally cannot do this. I've had more panic attacks and anxiety attacks, which of course I had plenty of experience with at the time, but hadn't had to have this many as frequently in forever, like literally had never happened. And so they were upset. They were really upset because they felt like I was leaving them high and dry in the 11th hour. I waited too long to tell them, right? I gave them only like 7, maybe 8 days to figure it out. And I was just like, I physically can't show up for this job. Right.
Yeah.
And so I quit before I began. And it was like this unique pain I felt from leaving a position that I never accepted in my heart, certainly, but like I hadn't even begun to tackle.
Yeah.
And, I had guilt and a little bit of fear, right? That there would be bad, talk about me around camp and that it would get around and, God forbid, I guess I could never use them as a reference, right? If I not, again, at that point, I was thinking about all that stuff. And so I had so much anxiety around quitting. And then I just remember both Adam and my mom turning to me and being like, but imagine how you would have been if you didn't quit.
Right.
Like
Right.
you now would have been 10 times worse. And then you maybe would have had to leave them high
Yeah.
and dry middle of camp.
Right.
And like, think about how they reacted to
Yeah.
your anxiety and your struggle with knowing you needed to not do this job.
Right.
And think about how you mean nothing to them. And at the end of the day, you're a commodity and you're someone to help them look better.
Right.
Right. And like and quitting is normal. This was the biggest thing the biggest lesson that I took from it is how normal quitting is.
Yeah.
And that was something that my mom said to me. She was like, quitting is normal. And like, it was an extra relief hearing it from her, right? As my parent and as somebody who, again, I had been modeling for me. And she said to me, she's like, don't do it like me. She's like, she never told me that before. Right. And my dad never said, don't be like me. Don't show up when you can't. Don't do the things when you feel like you can't.
Wow.
You're not, and she literally was like, in that moment, gave me the best gift because since then, quitting, while still hard, right, is done with a lot more care and thought. And also saying yes to opportunities is done with a lot more care and thought.
Right. Right.
And so since then, since that moment, so many years ago, thank you, Mom. I always really think hard on whether or not I want something before I agree to it. I think through all variables, and it's okay to tell people I need some time to think about it. And don't just say yes because it was an impulsive, like, I'm scared, I need a job, I need to do this, and say yes.
Right.
Right. And so like, taking the extra time that humans need to really reflect on a decision, like work, like a job, people might not think it's a big decision, but it is. If you don't think it's a big decision, I'm curious. Tell me more about that. DM me. But yeah, I mean, I just felt like, okay, quitting is a normal thing. People leave, people move on, people's lives change. And it doesn't mean that you're disloyal. It doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Right.
Right. And at the end of the day, your mental health, without your health, right?
Yeah.
Without your physical health, without your mental health, what is there? What do you have?
Exactly.
Can you even do anything without these things? Can you become, continue to be a functioning member of society without these things? And so it was the best gift, just learning from somebody who I worried about disappointing. Right. It's like, if you're out there listening to this and like, your kids, you want your kids to have a strong work ethic, of course, but like also remind them, don't just tell them, show them what rest looks like. Right. Show them what, how rest and relaxing and investing in hobbies and whatever can be so beneficial for you. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll feel good for you too. I imagine taking that active rest or, working on things that are fun for you and bring you joy.
Right.
But yeah.
So
that was the deal.
What if you, like, first of all, you were young, you were in your 20s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like,
I mean, I had turned, it was like, I was like the end of my 20s.
Yeah. I feel like the 20s are for like a lot of like experimenting with work and stuff, like that wasn't necessarily modeled to us in the 90s, right? Everyone just had like one job and they were there forever.
Yeah.
But I do feel like a lot of people that I know personally did a lot of experimentation with a lot of different types of gigs and jobs. And, when we did graduate from college, like, or when we entered the workforce years, there was a lot more gig economy and a lot less like, that was like the beginning of the gig economy. It was like 2004, 2005, where it was a lot less like, I have a stable job and a paycheck and health insurance and I work 9 to 5. And now it's like, no, you can work any time of the day. Right. But my question is, what was the narrative that made you wait so long to quit? Because you instantly knew you didn't want to do it.
I think it was just that I'm going to be disappointing all these people that I've known for a long time.
Yeah.
And they have a certain picture of me in their heads, or at least I felt like they did. Right. I got a lot of praise for my job as director of Cub Camp and, great parent feedback and, the staff that worked with me, had nothing but good things to say. Like it was just, and I felt like, why am I going to leave an environment that I know I really enjoy and that I like, and that has good people when maybe it'll be fine. Like that was the other part of the narrative was like, maybe it'll be fine. I'm working it all up in my head that it's not going to be fine preemptively. And I have no idea how it'll be.
Right.
But at the same time, right, I was not listening to all the signs that my body was giving me.
Yeah.
Which at the forefront was, you're not qualified for this job. I literally wasn't. The previous director of this job was like a scientist. And I'm like, I'm an early childhood educator. Like, and look, I'm not shitting on my job. I'm upset. My job, I feel our jobs, right? But like my job at the time as an early childhood educator, I felt and feel very strongly and very passionately is one of the most important jobs on planet Earth. Without early childhood development, people are not going to be functioning people. That's a fucking fact right there. So like, you know, I could talk about that for a very long time, but I won't. Yes. But like, you know, at the time I'm like, these kids are gifted. I don't know how to relate information that I spend years failing at and struggling super hard with in school myself, and try to lead these young counselors who are just learning this, even though they were very, very smart, you know, science majors. And here I am, like, I have nothing to offer these people. And I know I'm only being called because I'm solid at like leading.
Yeah.
Right. I'm solid and they know me. Right. And I'm still probably on their W-9 forms. And like, you know, it'd be easy for them. And maybe for me in some ways to just slip back into the old and the familiar. When at the end of the day, it was like, why are you biting off this thing that you literally can't chew? And that you don't have time that during the remainder of this school year to learn.
Right. Right.
I'm not going to go ahead and go get any degrees in this stuff so I can be. And those parents were very demanding. I'm just going to be real and say that those parents were very demanding. And many of them had called weeks ahead of camp to try to talk to me.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's
about the specific curriculum and how things. I'm like, give me a break, people. This is summer camp. Like, I get you're paying a lot of money, but like, I felt so bad for these kids. I'm so sorry. Again, these were the only kids at camp that didn't get any time in the pool. Oh, no swim. Every other child at camp got to go in their huge Olympic sized swimming pool. Oh. It was for everyone except for the gifted kids. I'm like, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
They don't get to swim. They're so gifted they can't swim. Like, give me a break. It's summer camp, whatever. So I was just like, this is intense. I can't do, you know? And so I think the narrative was like, I'm going to be disappointment. People are going to be upset with me. And that, what else do I have? Right.
Right.
And like,
I need to have a job.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, and that was another big release too, was like knowing that it was okay that I spent the summer without work. I had enough savings. I had people support that could support me. God forbid. I get that that's a privilege, right? That is not everybody's situation or reality. But I did have those things, thankfully, luckily for me. So I didn't need to work this 6-week gig that might have killed me. I truly, even when I think about it now, I'm like actively sweating at the thought of having to do that job. So,
right. I mean, that's information right there.
Right. When yoga was like really off the mat for me.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I know that this was a lot, but what I hope is that people can understand that leaving jobs is normal, that the act of quitting is normal, that it's actually pretty damn empowering.
Yeah.
It can be, even if you are in hard straits, right? There's nothing in my experience more exhilarating in frightening ways, but in exciting ways too, than not knowing what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
And having to figure it out in real time, because sometimes jobs can be a crutch and it can keep you from moving forward and changing and evolving into the next version of yourself or a better version that's, you know, maybe deserving of more or different or new.
Yeah.
So it's quitting, it's like, gets a bad rap.
We could reframe quitting into like, you know, it's quitting is like, when you're choosing to quit, when you're choosing to leave something, you're choosing a newer version of yourself. You're choosing a new adventure, right? So instead of like the stigma around quitting and being a quitter, right? It's like, no, I'm empowered to choose a new adventure in my story.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great one.
I mean, as we're like talking about quitting, like in my mind, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's like Like I never put it together like this, but it's like breaking up. You're breaking up with a job. You know, you're leaving this stable but maybe toxic thing behind in search of something new. And so that's, I was thinking about that, and like I can totally relate to everything you were saying, because I've definitely had jobs where I instantly know when I accept it, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
um and a lot of the times when I've actually quit, I've done like the really long, slow quit where like I'm not like, I mean, so like, I worked at a school for children with autism on and off for like, I don't know, 7, 8 years. I can't even remember now. Right. And I first like started there as like as a kid. I was like volunteering over the summer working there. So already like that place kind of had like the spirit of home for me because I'd been there even as a kid.
Right.
And then when I got out of college, like I could just get a job there. I'd already been there before, right? I could be a teacher's aide, and I didn't have to write a cover letter. And I already knew I loved the kids. I knew some of the staff. So it was a very comfortable transition from leaving college to, oh, wow, now I have a job.
Right.
I was in an amazing classroom. I was so close with all of the coworkers. Like we hung out a lot. Like we would do, oh my God, I forgot what it's called. Happy hour. Like, like we were super tight. So they were like family to me. I loved the kids. Like those kids were like my best friend, like I just loved them. Right. And funny enough, after I was there for like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, I guess it was 2 years. I went traveling with my friend Ursula at the time, and we went to Amsterdam and Switzerland. And, I know one is a city and one is a country, but we went all over there,
Yeah.
And when we came back, I was like, oh, I need to travel. Right. And so I remember like talking to the special educator and was like, hey, I really need to travel. And this was like in May of 2025. Right. And so we had been talking about it, and we decided that I decided where I was going to go, but I would go to Australia, and it wouldn't be till January 2006.
I was like, you said 20?
2006.
I'm like, you said 2025. And I was like,
no,
2005.
2005, back in the early 2000s. And then, so I would go January 2006. Yeah. And so they had all this time to plan to have a replacement. And it was actually like one of the first times where like I could train someone, because like I was really good at my job. I was really good. Leaving there, I was so afraid what would happen to the kids. Would the kids still, and the special educator was amazing. A lot of the team was amazing, but I was a perfectionist. I was a little control enthusiast. Like, everything was going to fall apart if I left it. Right. So I ended up going there to Australia. And then when I came back, I could still work at that school, but they put me in another classroom with a different special educator who did not have her shit together. And I started dreading going to work every single day. Yeah. And like a bunch of us did not like her because they have like 5, 6 adults in a classroom.
Right.
And a bunch of us were used to working with the kids a particular way. And she had different training. Right. And even in hindsight, she wasn't a good leader and she wasn't a good educator, like
right.
She didn't work well on a team. And there was just chaos every single day because she wanted to have less structure. And it's like, our kids need structure, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember like at that time, like also I wasn't paid very much. I had like 4 other jobs, right? I'm like working at the Gap, I'm waitressing, I'm nannying, right? And so between those two things, I was like, working with this woman that was challenging and having all these other jobs. I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to cut my hours. And I like did like this position called a lunch aide, where you're an aide in 2 different classrooms during the lunch hours, right? Like I wasn't in charge of lunch, but I would fill in the classroom so the teachers could take their lunches.
Right.
And I was in 2 great classrooms and everything. But anyway, like it was so hard for me to just leave that school because I loved it. And it wasn't actually like I had all these roles. I was a sub, I was a fill-in. It wasn't until I moved to New York City in 2012, 2013 that I finally said goodbye to that job. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. And so, but I always found a way to stay with them and keep working with them. I just couldn't leave it. I couldn't outright quit until I was moving. And that's happened with like so many different jobs. And it wasn't until the pandemic when I was with one company that was had a pattern of being toxic and they couldn't pay us like a fair amount during the pandemic, but yet they could spend a lot of money on themselves. It was a very strange time where I was just so fed up with the gaslighting and with we never have money to pay you all, but somehow we have money for us to like go on big trips and buy an RV in the middle of the pandemic when RVs are really expensive and, you know, like all these other things where like I had a big blowout quit where I like called them out on their finances and like broke it down and unfortunately that was a nasty quitting experience. And I don't want one of those again. Right. But that was the buildup of years of me not communicating. Right.
Right.
And so for me, for that, like the not wanting to quit that job was the loss of identity because I liked the work I was doing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, like, so even though that part of your work life with those particular people has concluded a while ago, but has come to its end. With it in the rear view a little bit, do you feel like you formed a new identity, or is it still you, but without that particular company?
Yeah, I think it's a blend because, you know, I broke up with them at the beginning of the pandemic, and then it was really hard to figure out an identity when you're home and on Zoom. You know, like when you barely leave the house and you live in the suburbs. So I feel like it's shifted. Things have shifted. I'm not doing some of the same work I used to, like travel to Iceland to teach. So I've lost that part of my identity. Right. So some of it's the same and some of it is shifting. And so I'm, you know, back in the saddle of like choosing my next adventure and what identity goes with that.
Yeah. Is there any part of you, aside from the gratitude I'm sure you feel for not being exposed to the level of harm that you were exposed to, is there any part of you that feels a sense of excitement or gratitude for, you know, the sort of navigation that you're dealing with right now? This sort of like bridge that you're in the middle of building between former Abby and your roles previous and who you, like you say, the new person you're choosing to be, right? With maybe you take some of those parts of you and you bring them into the future, and but maybe you leave some behind. Like, yeah.
I don't know what label to put on it. I feel like what I'm most excited for is moving out of the suburbs, and I feel like a lot will shift from that. Being
like more opportunities.
I'm the kind of person that, like we talked about in a previous episode, like the kind of neighbors you are, right?
Yeah.
But I'm the kind of person that like would like to be friends with my neighbors because we're out in the freaking suburbs and I don't know anyone around here, you know? So I'm excited to be in a place where there's more people and more things to do. And in that, I think more things will flow in my work life identity and all that, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's a powerful thing, whether it's powerful for the good or powerful for the not so good, deciding to make change in your work, right?
Breaking
Any
up.
kind of change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just moving on. Like, I mean, I guess the term breaking up feels like, I mean, I guess nothing is necessarily final except death, I suppose. But like, you know, it just there's something about breaking up, the words breaking up versus like moving on or moving up. that, you know, at least in my mind, that's a reframe I like. I like better of just like, you didn't necessarily, I mean, yeah, you broke up with that one company, right? So maybe it's like depending
breakup.
depending on your relationship with a job or a person or a boss or a situation, like
Yeah.
maybe you go with whatever feels right. It's like, are you moving up? Are you moving on? Are you growing up? Are you breaking up? Is it sticky? Is it normal? Are you stoked about it? You know, I mean, does it feel empowering, powerful in a good way, right? Like there's just, I think there's so many ways that we can reflect on what quitting looks like.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I love what I love for the culture we live in now is that there is more attention being paid to the fact that quitting isn't necessarily a bad thing, that it may be the exact right thing.
Right.
And that it's like, if everything's going to be hard, Glennon Doyle, you know, my queen, she always says, like, if everything's going to be hard, you have to choose the right kind of hard. Right. It's going to be hard whether you stay. It's going to be hard whether you go, regardless.
Right.
So you have to choose the right kind of hard. Which hard is going to help you grow as a person? Which hard is going to be keep, you know, getting you away from toxic, harmful relationships? Which harm is going to be not having you have panic attacks every day at work? Right. It's like, and you have to move towards the right kind of hard. So warriors, we hope that you can take some time today, this week, to just think about the feelings that come up for you when you think about the act of quitting. How does it feel when you think about it? What have been your experiences with leaving work situations? And do any of the things that we've shared today land for you, even in some small way? Take some time with it.
Like, what is your narrative around quitting? You know, is there a
what
lot
were you
of
taught
fear?
as a kid?
Exactly. Is there excitement? Like what is that narrative? And then how are you embodying that for other people too? I feel like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you have little people running around in your house and you want to show them, right? Obviously the power of hard work, the power of being loyal, the power of showing up while also maintaining, you know, integrity and authenticity and, you know, listening to your body and noticing threats and signs and trying to learn how to decipher which threats are just like, hey, I'm a little nervous about this because it's new and different and exciting. Or this is a real threat to my physical safety or my mental health or my peace. And navigating that can be really hard. It's hard for adults. So imagine, you know, if you have the opportunity to help your children, your students, right, whoever, to break some of that before it becomes so fully ingrained in them as young adults and adults, you know, take that opportunity. All right, warriors. We're thankful that you listened to this week. We love you. Abby, do you have a win of the week? Win of the week?
I do. So a while back, I was hanging out with Sarah.
Yay.
I also told Sarah that I talk about her on the podcast. So she was like, oh, wow.
Sarah, you should be listening already. Jeez.
I was hanging out with Sarah and we were talking about like Hot Ones or something, right? The TV show Hot Ones. Where someone eats spicy, either hot wings or cauliflower. And I was like, oh yeah, I've never really seen that. Cause like, I don't really watch YouTube, right? I'm one of those people that doesn't, so I don't know about things. Maybe Hot Ones is on a TV show now, but anyway, so, she was like, watch the one with Paul Rudd, who I love. I love Paul Rudd. I love
Everybody loves Paul Rudd.
Yeah, everyone loves him. I think I saw him once in the Hudson Valley Cinema years and years and years ago. The movie place. Yep. Pretty sure it was him, but I'm not positive. But anyway. And so I watched that one. And then Sarah and I were like, we should do our own Hot Ones.
Oh, God.
So Sarah came over and Trevor, Dan's brother, and Dan and I. And Sarah and Trevor are definitely hot sauce connoisseurs.
Okay.
Dan and I enjoy some hot sauce, right? But we're not like, we're not always looking for the hottest hot sauce and then eating it, right?
Yep.
So Sarah made some wings, then she made some cauliflower because Trevor's a vegetarian. And we played the Hot Ones game, and we had all these questions that we asked each other that were super fun. And we took turns putting the hot sauce on the hot wings. And we had like 12, I think, sauces that went from like not spicy to very spicy. And my win is that I made it through. I did them all.
Okay.
There was Trev had Da Bomb, which is the thing that's also on the show. No, it's always number 8 on the show Hot Ones, but it's like awful. And so I even did that, but I did a very, very little drip on my chicken wing.
Okay.
But I succeeded in the Hot Ones. I had all the hot sauces. I did not quit. My stomach was fine the next day. I was afraid of aftermath. Everything was fine. And we all just had a lot of fun hanging out. We hung out until like 2 a.m. So that was super fun. Yeah.
So wait, you didn't dip. It was not dunked completely in these sauces.
No. Okay. Because we had to. So we made all the chicken wings at the place, and we made the cauliflower, and it would have just been too much to figure out which wing was with which hot sauce. And
right,
and then also making sure Trev can't have gluten, so making sure that like nothing got his stuff like it would have been too much.
Got it. Okay. So you just like dip.
We had the hot sauces, and we would pour it on the hot wing or put it on the plate, or and
nice. Did everyone get through all of them? Or was
yeah, and Trev and Sarah definitely had some heavier pours on some of them. But we all made it through all of it.
Nice. Yeah. Give me like a sample question.
Oh, like what's a regret you have?
Oh, damn. So it was like deep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. You have to eat the spicy chicken wing, the hot wing, and then you have to answer the question.
Oh God.
Yeah. So like sometimes awful. You're a little taken, a little distracted by the heat in your mouth.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Were you being timed or something? Was this like a game, or was it just okay?
It was no time, super fun.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds fun.
It was a lot of fun. I didn't know I'd have so much fun eating spicy hot stuff, but I did.
All right. You made it happen. You didn't quit.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Sometimes you do have to push through.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to actually, warriors.
No.
If you needed to quit eating the chicken wings, you could have.
Yeah. I could have gone back. I could have gone to a number 2. Right. But I didn't. I did them all. I tried.
I'm impressed. Thanks. And that's the thing too, right? We want to impress people.
That's right. I couldn't be looking like a hot sauce wuss, like what would they say about me?
Sarah and Trevor would start their own podcast and be like, what is up with Abby and Dan?
Yeah.
They couldn't keep up.
Poor hot sauce intake.
What would they call their podcast? I wonder. I don't know.
Hot saucy?
Feeling hot. Hot saucies. Hot and saucy. I like that.
Saucy. Yeah.
That's good. Hot and saucy, the podcast. You're welcome.
Yeah. We'll make sure they hear this so they do
happen. They can at least scroll to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Brilliant idea. Oh, it's so good. All right. Yeah. That's a big one. I love it.
Thanks.
You just get to hang out and have fun, do something new.
That's right. That's exactly it.
You chose that adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Fabuloso. Okay, warriors, we love you so much. Thank you for being here with us. If you'd like to connect for any reason, you can hop on over to Instagram and join our fam. We are at Anxiety Warriors Podcast, or you can shoot us an email. We're at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com. You can shout out your wins of the week, share topic ideas with us, or if you think you'd be a great fit as a guest on our show, you can let us know and we can chat with you and connect and hopefully get you on our show to tell your story. Take 2 seconds, please, and smash that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in, maybe both, maybe all the places. Please be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and jump into our show notes and click our Threadless merch shop and grab yourself something fun with some Anxiety Warriors Podcast logos and sayings and fun stuff over there. We have got to add a couple of new things in the shop.
Yeah, we have them sitting in the emails.
It's time. We gotta add them and add some new stuff. Maybe before spring. Next time there's
Mhm.
a spring sale, we're going to have some new merch up. So check out one or all of those things. We'd love you so much for it, warriors.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. We are so grateful that we get to do this with you.
Till next time.